Yeah, good morning, everyone. Let's start with today's session of The Hindu. Today is 5th of June 2026. Today is 5th of June 2026. And we'll start with the first news item for the day. And today is also World Environment Day. So we have to discuss about that as well. And from today onwards, I have decided that I'll not wear my cap anymore because, see, this is a fact and I cannot hide it for a very long period of time. So let's start with today's session. Today's World Environment Day. Today is 5th of June. So we'll discuss in brief about the World Environment Day as well. Right. So this is the first news item that we have in today's newspaper. Five individuals have lost their lives in a fire incident which happened in a hospital in Muzaffarpur district of Bihar. A similar kind of incident happened in Delhi day before yesterday, where 21 individuals have lost their lives. So this is a kind of a regular thing which is taking place, right? So now let's not discuss about it. Let's not dwell upon this particular uh, a fact, but again, this is important. This is again something related to the Great Nicobar project, which was launched by, or the idea of Great Nicobar project was conceived by Niti Aayog in 2021, and it was launched with a project cost of 71,000 crore rupees. Now there is another important development, that the Public Investment Board, a body of the finance ministry, they were basically a finance ministry body that appraises large public investment, had on August 2024 termed the proposed international container transshipment port at Galthe Bay in Great Nicobar Island as lacking in strategic objectives. So now this is something which might change, or which might change the entire discourse about the Great Nicobar project. And what is this news item, students? That there is a specific body of the finance ministry which is known as the Public Investment Board, and it made a very sharp remark regarding one of the projects at Great Nicobar project. And what was this project? This was basically International Container Transshipment Port. इसको लेकर के basically बोला था Public Investment Board ने that it lacks strategic objective, meaning thereby that as per the Public Investment Board, there was no strategic objective behind establishing or behind building international container transshipment port. Now, students, we have discussed so many times about Great Nicobar project, that the idea was conceived by Niti Aayog in 2020, in 2021, with the project cost of 71,000 crore rupees. With inflation and everything, the project cost has rose to 92,000 crore rupees, and till this date the project has not started, right? So this is also something which you should consider, that after making a lot of strategic progress, the project is yet to start, right? 92,000 crore rupees, yeah, absolutely correct, right? So now moving on to the next important point. So in 2024, in August 2024, this remark was made by the Public Investment Board, and following this particular meeting, uh, you know the same project was formally notified as a strategic project by the Ministry of Defense. So after a body of the finance ministry said that this project is not of strategic importance, and after 1 year, Ministry of Defense intervened and it said this project it is a strategic project, right? So जिस चीज को लेकर के ऑब्जेक्टिव था मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस ने, वो क्या किया, उस पर्टिकुलर ऑब्जेक्टिव को ही चेंज कर दिया बाय स्टेटिंग दैट दिस इज अ स्ट्रेटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोजेक्ट, राइट? और बहुत सारी चीज़ें बननी है यहाँ पर एक एयरपोर्ट भी बनना है, एक ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट भी बनना है, राइट? फिर इसके बाद एक हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट भी बनना है, और बहुत सारा डेवलपमेंट होना है. बट अगेन, बिकॉज ऑफ अ लॉट ऑफ सेंसिटिव, बिकॉज दिस प्रोजेक्ट इज बिंग डेवलप्ड इन अ सेंसिटिव एरिया, राइट? वहाँ पर ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज रहती हैं, वो रिजर्व्ड एरिया है. 166 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का टोटल प्रोजेक्ट है, एंड आउट ऑफ दोज 166 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर, 4 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का जो प्रोजेक्ट है वो रिजर्व ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज के लिए जो रिजर्व एरिया रखा गया वहां पर फॉल करता है. सो दैट इज वन ऑफ द मेन कंसर्न ऑफ दिस ग्रेट निकोबार प्रोजेक्ट. नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. Lebanon and Israel agree to conditional ceasefire. Now, students, we have to understand that if we want to see a ceasefire between Iran and United States of America, then this is a prerequisite. What is a prerequisite? A ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. So on page number 1, you are reading about the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel, and on next page number, on page number 14, you will see, or you will read that Hezbollah and Israel have started firing at each other again. So until and unless there is a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel, there would be no ceasefire between, or there would be no normalization of terms between United States of America and Iran. If we want a ceasefire, if we want a ceasefire, then we have to ensure that there is a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel as well. Now moving on to the next point. So we know this, that the president of Venezuela, Ms. Delcy Rodriguez, on an official visit to India. She is visiting India from 3rd of June to 7th of June 2026, and a lot of conversation has taken place around the energy security. And Venezuela used to be one of the top supplier of crude oil to India since 2020, and after these sanctions were imposed by the United States of America, we stopped buying the crude oil from Venezuela. Now the next important point that we have to understand related to this particular topic, that we used to, at peak, when our trade with Venezuela was at its peak, we used to buy 400,000 barrels of crude oil every day. So now Miss Delcy Rodriguez is on an official visit to India. Now, a lot of important conversation has taken place around various aspects like economy, foreign affairs, science and technology, transport and communication. And yesterday she met the Prime Minister of our country, Narendra Modi, right? And Venezuela can play a very important role in the energy security of our country. Now, this is actually important. India UK launched observatory to expand critical minerals partnership. So last year in the month of October, when the Prime Minister of United Kingdom was on an official visit to India in the month of October. He was in India. Mr. Keir Starmer was in India. So at that time, an important development taken place, and in the same reference and in the same context, students, what has happened now? This is important. This is a one-liner. It might be relevant for you. Seeking to expand cooperation and technology sharing in the realm of critical minerals, India and the United Kingdom on Thursday formally launched the Critical Minerals Global Supply Chain Observatory. So, what is this project? Critical Minerals Global Supply Chain Observatory. Now, I'd like to ask one more question. There is a free trade agreement between India and United Kingdom. Any idea about the free trade agreement between India and United Kingdom? Anyone? Free trade agreement between India and United Kingdom. And this free trade agreement was signed in July 2025. Right, जब Indian Prime Minister was on an official visit to England. At that time, this particular agreement was signed. So please remember this. India and United Kingdom have signed a free trade agreement in July 2025. Have signed a free trade agreement in July 2025, and this agreement is known as Comprehensive Economic Trade CETA, right? Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, CETA. Now, after this agreement was signed between these two countries, a lot of important development has taken place with respect to trade, and also both the countries, India and United Kingdom, decided to double their trade 212 billion US dollars by 2030. Currently, the bilateral trade between India and UK is $56 billion. And India is 11th largest trading partner of United Kingdom, right? So after this particular visit, a lot of development has taken place, and in the same context, yes, exactly, for minerals. This particular project, this entire project came into existence for the minerals, Critical Minerals Global Supply Chain Observatory. The observatory was first announced during the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to India in October last year. And what is the main objective? So the main objective is to expand mineral coverage, further integrate advanced technologies, and unlock new bilateral investment opportunities. So what is the main objective of this observatory, which was created by India and by the combined effort of India and United Kingdom, to ensure a strategic mineral coverage, right? Because we know when it comes to rare earth minerals and magnets, China has absolute dominance over this particular aspect of the trade and entire development. The idea of development in 21st century is very much dependent on the fact that which country has access to the rare earth minerals and magnets. So in that context also, students, this observatory will play a very important role. This observatory will be um, or is jointly developed by this observatory is jointly to be operated by India's Technology Innovation in Exploration and Mining Foundation, TEXMIN. तो कौन कौन इसको इंडिया की तरफ से ऑपरेट करेगा? टेक्समिन. एंड व्हाट इज टेक्समिन? टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन, टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन इन एक्सप्लोरेशन एंड माइनिंग फाउंडेशन. तो बेसिकली स्टूडेंट, दिस इज अ डेडिकेटेड विंग ऑफ इंडिया, जो माइनिंग एक्सप्लोरेशंस को लेकर के या क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स को लेकर के जो भी एक्सप्लोरेशन मिशंस होते हैं उनको देखती है. एंड इट्स नेम इज टेक्समिन. एंड द अदर इंस्टीट्यूट फ्रॉम इंडिया इज ISM धनबाद, इंडियन स्कूल ऑफ माइंस धनबाद. और यूनाइटेड किंगडम की तरफ से विच इज द मेन पार्टिसिपेटिंग इंस्टीट्यूट, कैम्ब्रिज University. So you must have seen that India is putting a lot of efforts to ensure uninterrupted supply of rare earth minerals. इसीलिए हमने क्या ज्वाइन किया था? पैक्स Silica, right, which was an initiative launched by United States of America. And here we have established a Critical Minerals Global Supply Chain Observatory with the help of United Kingdom. So basically, we want to expand our portfolio when it comes to rare earth minerals. Now moving on to the next important point. So basically, he is the main accused, Lavkesh Bajaj. He was basically the owner of the property where a fire incident took place, and he has been charged with the section 105, mainly culpable homicide not amounting to murder, and multiple charges were pressed against him. Now, now this is actually very important. Public Accounts Committee. Anyone, what is a Public Accounts Committee and why this Public Accounts Committee holds such a relevance in present time? Anyone? Public Accounts Committee. And when this entire idea of Public Accounts Committee came into existence, because last month, in the month of May, the government of the tenure of this committee was extended by another 1 year, and the chairman of this particular committee is Mr. KC Venugopal. So what is the background of Public Accounts Committee? Anyone who'd like to give a concrete answer? What is a Public Accounts Committee? Because Last month, the tenure of Mr. KC Venugopal, who is the present chairman of Public Accounts Committee, was extended for another 1 year for the financial year 2026-27. So let's talk about Public Accounts Committee students. Public Accounts Committee, and out of all the committees of the Parliament, it is one of the most important committee, Public Accounts Committee. And what is the relevance of and why this committee is so important? The reason is very simple, because it is it scrutinize scrutinize the government expenditure and financial financial मैनेजमेंट. बेसिकली जो टैक्स पेयर्स का पैसा गवर्नमेंट के पास जा रहा है, हाउ द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज स्पेंडिंग दैट मनी. This is one of the main objective of the Public Accounts Committee, to check or to scrutinize that how the government of India is spending taxpayers money. Then the second important point is the idea of the Public Accounts Committee, the PAC, was formalized in 2020, in 1921. In 1921, after the Montague Chelmsford reforms came into existence. And we know this Montague Chelmsford reforms are also known as Government of India Act 1999. So this was the first instance, students, where the first formal discussion related to Public Accounts Committee took place in 1999, and eventually it was formalized in 1921. Now moving on to the next important point which we should remember. Now, initially there were certain years when the chairman of this committee used to be from the ruling party. But let's understand one fact, that there is a committee whose main objective is to evaluate or scrutinize the public finances or the government expenditure. अगर उस कमिटी का चेयरमैन रूलिंग पार्टी से होगा, तो उस कमिटी पे जो एलिमेंट ऑफ ट्रस्ट होता है, या जो fiduciary relationship होता है ना, based on trust, right? So it would be very difficult for the people to trust that particular chairman, because वो element of bias हमेशा रहेगा कि he is also from the ruling party is spending all the money. So how could he present a fair picture? So since 1967 it has been a convention that the chairman is always a person from the opposition party, right? And basically, if the chairman is from the opposition party, then it will strengthen the entire idea of accountability. Now moving on to the next point. There are total 22 members in Public Accounts Committee. There are total 22 members in Public Accounts Committee, and out of these 22 members, students, out of these 22 members, 15 are from Lok Sabha and 7 are from Rajya Sabha. And the chairperson is always from the mostly from the Lok Sabha, right? Chairman is almost always from the Lok Sabha, mostly from the Lok Sabha, and this fact can be derived because chairman is always appointed by appointed by Speaker of Speaker of Lok Sabha. Chairman is always appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and tenure of the chairman is of 1 year. And who's the present chairman of Public Accounts Committee? Mr. KC Venu, Mr. KC Venu Gopal. ठीक है. So this is entirely about Public Accounts Committee. Now let's move to the next point. Let's move to the current context, why we are discussing about it, why we are discussing about it. So House Committee cites CAG report pulls of government over skilling program. So we know this student that the government of India launched in one of its flagship program, Pradhan Mantri Skill Development Program, Prime Minister Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, MSD. Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship launched a program which is known as Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, popularly known as PM KVY, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, and this program was a flagship initiative launched by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in 2015. Now, the main objective of this particular committee or this particular program was to develop or enhance the skills of the people living in this country so that they have more job opportunities. Now, Public Accounts Committee have said something which is very important. And Public Accounts Committee has said that the ministry or under this program, maximum resources were spent on skills which are less in demand. So I mean, if at the end of the day the government of India is spending public or exchequer's money or public money, then it has to ensure कि वो अगर skill development program उन्होंने start किया है तो at least वो ऐसे skill enhance करें जिनका demand market में बहुत है. But as per the Public Accounts Committee, the scheme was focused on those skills which are not in demand, which are less in demand. So that is not the proper allocation of resources, and the main task of the Public Accounts Committee is to have a keen eye on, or to have a very keen eye on the exchequer's money, right? That how the government of India is spending that money. So this is also important, that the government was not, or the ministry was not spending money on those sectors which were important for our economy. Now, this is also important. Draft Supreme Court rules prohibit use of AI for judicial outcomes and witness profiling. So, any idea about this? Any idea about this particular topic? Anyone would like to say something about this? And these guidelines are very important क्योंकि लोग क्या कर रहे थे? लोग AI का यूज कर रहे थे ड्राफ्ट करने के लिए और ऐसे ऐसे केसेस साइट कर रहे थे जो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करते थे. द केसेस वर नॉट देयर एट ऑल, बट पीपल यूज टू साइट दोज केसेस क्योंकि वो जो पूरा का पूरा ड्राफ्ट बनाया जाता था वो आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को यूज करके बनाया जाता था, एंड आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस यूज टू you used to provide some fake cases as well. So yesterday, the Honorable Supreme Court of India has released a draft guidelines, or has released certain draft guidelines related to the use of AI, or prohibiting the use of AI in the Indian court system. And how, and these rules are basically how artificial intelligence will be governed when it comes to the use of AI, or when it comes to the integration of artificial intelligence in judicial system across the country. Now moving on to the next important point, that the Supreme Court of India has also invited public suggestions from this from the experts and the stakeholders till 20th of June. So any one of you who is interested in reforming our judicial system, not reforming actually, that how artificial intelligence should be governed in the Indian judicial system, you may write your comments and suggestions by 20th June 2026. Now moving on to the next important point. These rules are prepared by Supreme Court's AI committee. These rules have been drafted by Supreme Court's AI committee, and it also, now these particular rules have certain important things, like these rules bar AI assisted sentencing without mandatory human oversight. So basically these rules have ensured कि किसी भी person, किसी भी person को, अगर convicted person को अगर punishment pronounce करना है, that punishment cannot be pronounced solely or purely with the help of artificial intelligence. Some kind of human intervention is necessary. It has also said that for profiling parties or witnesses, artificial intelligence will not be used. कि जब विक्टिम्स की प्रोफाइलिंग करनी है, अक्यूज्ड की प्रोफाइलिंग करनी है, विटनेस की प्रोफाइलिंग करनी है, तो उस टाइम पर भी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का यूज नहीं किया जाएगा. The proposed regulations come amid concerns expressed by the top court in recent months over the growing reliance on AI by courts in rendering judgments. In March, a bench headed by Justice P.S. Narasimha chided a trial court for relying on non-existing judgments generated with the help of AI, observing that it was not merely an error in decision making but amounted to judicial misconduct. So a lot of judges in our country, they basically, jab AI is integrated in everything, so a lot of judges used to take place the help of artificial intelligence while sentencing, while pronouncing the sentence for the पर्टिकुलर ऑफेंस. और वहां पर वो क्या, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस क्या करता था कि कोई भी एक ऐसा इररिलेवेंट केस साइट कर देता था जो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता था. That case is not, that judgment is never pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, but artificial intelligence used to say that this particular judgment was pronounced in 1967, and on the basis of that judgment this trial court used to pronounce the sentencing. So that's why the current draft has barred that no the absolute reliance on artificial intelligence when it comes to the pronouncement of sentence is absolutely prohibited. There must be some human intervention. Human intervention is sine qua non while pronouncing the sentence. Now moving on to the next point, this high level now this committee, this AI committee, chaired by Justice P.S. Narasimha and comprising Justices Sanjeev Sachdeva, Rajiv Vijay Raghavan, V. Anup. So these are multiple judges who were the part of this committee. They have also invited comments till June 2026. Under the draft regulations, the processing of personal data through AI systems shall be governed by the provisions of the Digital DP Act. So basically, जो भी data collect किया जाएगा, उस data को process किया जाएगा as per the rules and regulations laid down in DP Act 2023. It also underlines that AI systems must not perpetuate, amplify, or introduce bias on grounds of race, religion, caste, sex, gender, disability, language, economic status, or any other ground prohibited under the Constitution. So basically, I mean, that is one of the main disadvantages of using AI everywhere. So finally, the Supreme Court of India has said that artificial intelligence cannot undermine the principles given in the Constitution of India under Article 14, 15, 16. Right? Article 15 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, religion, caste, sex, and place of birth. So same thing has been asserted by the Supreme Court of India, that no particular provision of the Constitution must be or won't or can't be violated by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not that powerful that it would violate the provisions of the Constitution of India, and it need not to show bias towards any particular party. It has to see everyone with a transparent eye. Now moving on to the next point. So today is World Environment Day. So let's talk about something about World Environment Day as well, students. 5th June every year. Okay, fine, absolutely fine. Now, what is the theme? What is the theme? What is the theme for this year's World Environment Day? Inspired by nature for climate for our future. Inspired by nature. Inspired by nature for our climate for our future. For our climate for our future. Inspired by nature for climate for our future. So this is the theme of World Environment Day 2026. You can write down these 2 points, then we can move to the next. Then we can move to the next aspect of World Environment Day 2026. And global celebration will take place in Baku, Azerbaijan. In Baku, Azerbaijan, the global celebration will take place, and this entire celebration is centered around the theme, inspired by nature for climate for our future. Now, moving on to the next point. Moving on to the next point. What is the history of this World Environment Day? Anyone? What is the history of World Environment Day? And so there are 4 5 main challenges which has been highlighted, which should be covered through World Environment Day. Heat waves, melting glaciers, sea level rise, right? वो global warming से related जितनी भी चीजें होती हैं, right? Now moving on to the next important point. पहली बार हमने कब सेलिब्रेट किया था वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट डे? वर्ल्ड अभी अब 21 जून को हम लोग वो भी सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं ना, इंटरनेशनल योगा डे. दैट इज ऑल्सो रिलेवेंट. राइट, एनीवन वुड लाइक टू आंसर द क्वेश्चन अबाउट एनीथिंग अबाउट वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट डे? कौन सेलिब्रेट करता है वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट डे? Sir, do we need AI in the judicial system? I mean, it can help in profiling of cases. It can help in sorting out different type of cases. It can help you in, getting or, citing a relatable past judgment, right? Because artificial intelligence is something which purely works upon the fact कि आपने उसको train कैसे किया है, right? And World Environment Day is basically celebrated by, कौन करता है इसको पूरा, इसका जो सेलिब्रेशन वगैरह होता है? यूनाइटेड नेशंस इन्वायरमेंट प्रोग्राम, यूएनईपी. यूनाइटेड नेशंस United Nations World Environment Day is celebrated by United Nations Environment Program. Now moving on to the next point. You can also visit the official website of United Nations Environment Program to get a better understanding of World Environment Day. Now moving on to the next point. So आज के न्यूज़पेपर में जो most of the articles that those are purely related to World Environment Day. सबसे पहला important जो पैसे पैराग्राफ है इसको हम थोड़ा सा पढ़ लेते हैं. So in the first paragraph it has been highlighted that India will require अप्रोक्सीमेटली 2.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर अप्रोक्सीमेटली हमारी जो अभी जीडीपी है इसका 60% हमें चाहिए होगा टू मीट आर नेशनली डिटर्मिन्ड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस एनडीसीज बाय 2030. हमारे जो 2030-31 तक के नेशनली डिटर्मिन्ड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस हैं जो हमने खुद से डिसाइड किए हैं, हमें उन टारगेट्स को अचीव करने के लिए वी विल बी रिक्वायरिंग अप्रोक्सीमेटली 2.5 ट्रिलियन डॉलर्स बाय 2030, which means that approximately 400 billion dollars a year, right? And it is not possible for India to invest 400 billion dollars just to achieve our nationally determined contributions. And also over the longer term the cost of achieving net zero emissions by 2070 is estimated at 10.1 trillion dollar, nearly 3 times India's current GDP. So what are the targets? Whatever targets we have decided for ourselves that we have to achieve by 2070, we have to invest approximately 10.1 trillion dollar, and this is a huge amount, and India is in no position to invest this much of money by 2070 for achieving the nationally determined contributions. Now there are certain industries which contribute a lot when it comes to climate or environment degradation. These are steel, cement, power and road transport. अगर हमें सिर्फ इन चार इंडस्ट्रीज का ही डिकार्बोनाइजेशन करना है, देन विल नीड अप्रोक्सीमेटली 467 बिलियन डॉलर्स. सो द फर्स्ट आर्टिकल इज बेसिकली फोकसिंग ऑन द लैक ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट फ्रॉम द लैक ऑफ फंड for India, and we don't have that kind of financial freedom where we can invest a lot of money for a better transition into green energy, right? So ये सब philosophical चीज है, nothing factual. A national environmental survey whose time came. Anthropologist Anna Singh writes, Anthropocene is the epoch in which human disturbance outranks other geological forces, although some interprets see the name as implying the triumph of humans. So basically, if there are different kind of surveys are existing, why not have an environmental survey? And a national environment survey is a must given the current scenario and circumstances. So again, nothing relevant for your examination, तो हमें इसमें इसको बहुत डिटेल में डिस्कस करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Is the war in Ukraine escalating? Yes, the war in Ukraine is escalating because since 8th and 9th of May 2026 when Russia celebrated its Victory Day parade, World War II का Victory Day parade जब से उन्होंने celebrate किया, उसके बाद से Ukraine has launched a relentless strike on Russia, and Russia is responding with the same vigor and energy, right? A lot of civilians are also killed. Yesterday we have seen that 18 civilians were killed in Ukraine after a drone and a missile strike by Russia on the Kyiv, right? So this is something, this war is escalating, and this is not, and now no country is in a position to mediate between this war, because yesterday Secretary of State to the United States of America, Mr. Marco Rubio, also said that United States of America is not a partial mediator when it comes to Russia Ukraine conflict. And except United States of America, who can play a very important role? I mean, there is no party per se which can play a very important role in this particular conflict, right? अब फिर एल नीनो का इफेक्ट वजह से वी नो व्हाट हैपेंड ड्यू टू द इफेक्ट ऑफ एल नीनो के इफेक्ट वजह से स्टूडेंट्स क्या होता है कि जो रेन फॉल होता है वो इवेंचुअली कम हो जाता है, एंड this reduction in the rainfall will have a huge impact on the agriculture output. That's why yesterday there was a news that the government has already anticipated that there will be some reduction in the production of the pulses, and the government has also started creating a buffer stock for all the important grains जिनका production कम होगा एल नीनो की वजह से. And it is a weather phenomenon, ये हर 2 से 3 साल में एक बार आ ही जाता है. But interesting news is कि केरला में weather arrive हो चुका है. Yesterday there was a first rainfall of the season in Kerala, and it was expected, and it was also a forecast from the in the Indian Meteorological Department that by 4th of June there would be onset of monsoon in Kerala, right? तो रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर में देर इज नथिंग न्यू, जब तक रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर खत्म नहीं होता है, जिस दिन खत्म हो जाएगा, सीज फायर अनाउंस हो जाएगा, तब हमारे लिए चीजें रेलेवेंट होंगी, क्योंकि अभी सारी वही चीजें स्टूडेंट्स डिस्कस की जा रही हैं जो हम ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं। राइट, एग्जैक्टली 1973। नाउ मूविंग ऑन। India was much more corrupt, less able to react 20 years ago. Now moving on to the next point, अभी वो international section में Hezbollah rejects latest ceasefire agreement as Israeli strikes kill four. So after the ceasefire was announced, and this has been a regular practice for Israel, that after the ceasefire was announced, uh, Israel killed four individuals, and in response to that, Hezbollah restarted or striked again. Pak accuses India of weaponizing water after treaty suspension. Now let's talk about Indus Water Treaty. Anyone? It was signed between India and Pakistan in 1960, and it was kept in abeyance last year after Pahalgam attack. So let's talk about Indus Water Treaty. Right. And this is very important. Indus Water Treaty. Signed on 19th September 1960, and it was signed between India and पाकिस्तान। अब इंडिया और पाकिस्तान की तरफ से स्टूडेंट्स इसे साइन किसने किया था? हु साइन इंडस वाटर ट्रीटी फ्रॉम इंडिया, एंड who was the signatory from India, and who was the signatory from Pakistan when it comes to Indus Water Treaty? So from India it was Jawaharlal Nehru, and from Pakistan it was Ayub Khan. This treaty was brokered by World. Because when it comes to India and Pakistan, students, there are very less chances that these countries can decide something on their own. So this treaty was brokered by World Bank, and India की तरफ से इसे जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने साइन किया था, और पाकिस्तान की तरफ से it was signed by Ayub Khan. Now students, there were total 6 rivers which were divided between, the water of these rivers was divided between India and पाकिस्तान. So इंडिया के पास में कौन कौन सी 3 रिवर थी और पाकिस्तान के पास में कौन कौन सी 3 रिवर गई? So Pakistan got Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus. CJI, Chief Justice of India, Chenab, Jhelum, and Indus was with Pakistan, or India got Bees, Ravi, and Satluj. BRS. Right. Indus Water Treaty. लिख लीजिए प्लीज, या स्क्रीनशॉट लेना तो प्लीज आप वो भी ले सकते हैं. And main river is Indus, and all these 5 are basically tributaries. Indus is the main river, and it originates from Tibet, then it comes to India, and then it flows in Pakistan. And after Pahalgam attack, India has kept this treaty in abeyance. India has kept this treaty in abeyance. Now it was also decided that when there will be some kind of dispute between these two countries related to Indus Water Treaty, then this dispute would be decided by then this dispute when there is a dispute between India and Pakistan, and these two countries are not able to resolve this issue on their own, then this issue would be resolved by permanent court of arbitration, PAC, which is in the Hague, right? Which is in the Hague. So this is about Indus Water Treaty, a brief information about the Indus Water Treaty. Now we can move to the next point. So mixed doubles में uh, Sara Irani and Andrea Vasuri has won the mixed doubles titles at French Open. So that is one important news. French Open हमेशा जितने भी हमारे लिए Grand Slams होते, those are all important. All four Grand Slams are important, and all four winners are also important, right? Now this is all about today's analysis. Let's talk about the quiz. Let's talk about the quiz. And yes, this is related to the union budget of 2026-27. And at the end of this quiz, we will be also discussing about, in brief, a very brief background of this year's budget, right? So there are total 12 questions in today's, this Q&A session. So let's start with the first one. The Union Budget 2026-27 historic marks a historic milestone, as it is the first budget to be prepared in which of the following locations? सेंट्रल सेक्रेटेरिएट भवन, कर्तव्य भवन, विकसित भारत भवन और संसद पथ भवन. एंड टुमारो वी हैव अ क्विज. पूरे इस वीक में जितनी भी चीजें हुई हैं, सो जस्ट बी देयर ऑन टाइम. सो किस बिल्डिंग में सबसे पहली बार इस बजट को बनाया गया? सेंट्रल सेक्रेटेरिएट भवन, कर्तव्य भवन, विकसित भारत भवन और संसद पथ भवन. सो फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम दिस यूनियन बजट इज प्रिपेयर्ड एट कर्तव्य भवन, जिसे अभी इसी साल गवर्नमेंट ने इनॉग्रेट किया था, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने इनॉग्रेट किया था. एंड फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम आवर एनुअल बजट इज प्रिपेयर्ड एट कर्तव्य भवन. नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 2. अंडर द बायोफार्मा शक्ति मिशन इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन द Union Budget 2026-27, what total monetary outlay has been proposed by the government over a period of 5 years? So this Biopharma Shakti platform was also, or this this mission was also introduced in the Union Budget of 2026-27. Now you have to tell me that कितना financial allocation हुआ है for the next 5 years. And the main objective of this particular initiative, Biopharma Shakti, is to position India as a hub for global pharma manufacturing. And the financial allocation is of rupees 10,000 crore. It is to be spent over a period of 5 years, right? So please remember this. Under this Biopharma Shakti mission, the government has allocated 10,000 crore rupees, and the main objective is to position India as the global pharma manufacturer, and this 10,000 crore rupees spent over a period of next 5 years. To deepen domestic value chains and boost electronics manufacturing, the allocation for the electronics component manufacturing scheme has been increased to what amount in the Union Budget 2026-27? Again, students, this is also very important, right? It is very important because see, electronic component manufacturing is going to play a very important role, and इसी का एक important aspect क्या है? Electronic component manufacturing का एक important aspect क्या है? Semiconductor वगैरह भी आ जाता है. Semiconductor is although different, but again these two things are interconnected. So you have to tell me कि जो ये इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्कीम थी, इसका गवर्नमेंट ने बजट बढ़ा करके कितना कर दिया? Scheme has been increased to what amount in the union budget of 2026-27? So for question number 3, students, the correct answer is option A. Earlier the financial allocation was of rupees 22,919 crore. Now it has been increased to 40,000 crore rupees. So there is an increment of almost 17,081 crore rupees for the electronic component manufacturing scheme. Now the Union Budget 2026-27 proposed the setting up of an animation, visual effects, gaming and comics content creator labs in partnership with the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai. एक पॉइंट और यहाँ पर इंपॉर्टेंट है, जो एलिट या किसी भी और लॉ एंट्रेंस एग्जामिनेशन में पूछा जा सकता है, दैट इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ क्रिएटिव टेक्नोलॉजीज इज लोकेटेड एट व्हाट प्लेस? इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ क्रिएटिव टेक्नोलॉजीज इज लोकेटेड एट व्हाट प्लेस? These labs are planned to be set up across how many secondary schools? So these creative content creator labs are to be established in how many schools? In how many secondary schools? So these labs should be set up across 15,000 secondary schools across the country. So this is something which is also important, that animation, visual effects, gaming and comics content creator labs would be established across 15,000 secondary schools in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Creative Technologies, Mumbai. Now we'll move to the next question, question number 5. According to the direct tax reforms announced in the Union Budget 2026-27, the tax collected at source on overseas tour packages and remittances for the education or medical purposes under LRS has been reduced to a uniform rate of. आपको ये बताना है, tax collected at source TCS on overseas tour packages and remittances for education, इस पर कितना कर दिया गया है? And what is LRS? Liberalized remittances scheme. So it has been made uniform at the rate of 2%. पहले सब चीज़ों पे अलग अलग रहता था, अब स्टैंडर्ड है 2% पे कि अगर आप एजुकेशन, अगर आपका कोई बच्चा बाहर पढ़ रहा है, अगर आप उसके लिए पैसे भेज रहे हैं, तब आपको उस पर 2% का देना पड़ेगा. ओवरसीज टूर पैकेज है, उस पर भी आपको 2% का टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. So this is now made uniform. The Union Budget 2026-27 has granted immunity from prosecution to small taxpayers for the non-disclosure of non-immovable foreign assets with retrospective effect from 1st October 2024, provided the aggregate value is less than. Now, if some taxpayer has undisclosed non-immovable foreign assets, then they will not attract any kind of prosecution. They have absolute immunity if the aggregate value of that product, if that aggregate value of that asset is less than 10 lakh, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs or 25 lakhs. So if the aggregate value of that non-immovable foreign asset is less than rupees 20 lakh, then these taxpayers, the taxpayers of our country will attract no criminal prosecution from the government, because government has provided immunity. To support foreign companies providing global cloud services via Indian data centers, the Union Budget 2026-27 has announced a dedicated tax holiday extended up to which year? Now this is very important कि इंडिया में जो भी फॉरेन कंपनीज हैं जो क्लाउड सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड कर रही हैं, उनको कितने साल तक किसी भी तरीके का कोई टैक्स देना नहीं पड़ेगा. Now to answer this question, you just need to use your common sense. There are 4 options: 2035, 42, 47 or 50. For question number 7, what is the correct answer for question number 7? Anyone? For question number 7. For question number 7, what is the correct answer? Question number 7, हमने कब तक का टैक्स हॉलीडे प्रोवाइड किया है उन क्लाउड कंपनी, उन फॉरेन कंपनीज को which are providing cloud services in India? Then your correct answer is 2047, because the main objective of India is to become a developed nation by 2047 and the vision is Viksit Bharat by 2047. 2047. Viksit Bharat by 2047. Now moving on to the question number 8. Moving on to question number 8. Under the Union Budget 2026-27, what is the specific target set for the budget estimate of the fiscal deficit as a percentage of GDP? Now this is also important कि हमने अपना जो fiscal डेफिसिट का टारगेट है वो कितना सेट किया 4.5%, 4.4% ऑफ द जीडीपी, 4.3% ऑफ द जीडीपी, 4.1% ऑफ द जीडीपी. So for the financial year 2026-27, the fiscal deficit target is set at the rate of 4.3% of our total GDP. Fiscal deficit for financial year, fiscal deficit for FY 2026-27 is set at 4.3%, right? So this is also important. Now we'll move to next question, question number 9. Public capital expenditure allocation has seen a significant boost in the Union Budget 2026-27. What is the absolute allocation amount designated for capex in FY 2026-27? कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने कितना पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर कितना पैसा एलोकेट किया 11.2 लाख करोड़ 12.2 लाख करोड़ 17.1 लाख करोड़ और 14.0 लाख करोड़ द अमाउंट एलोकेटेड फॉर public capital expenditure in financial year 2026-27 is option B. 12.2 lakh crore rupees has been allocated by the union government for the public capital expenditure for financial year 2026-27. Now we'll move to the next question, question number 10. On which specific date was the economic survey 2026-27 for economic survey 2026 presented in parliament? 28th January, 29th January, 1st February or 13th February? On what date? On what date? This economic survey was presented in the parliament. इकोनॉमिक सर्वे कब प्रेसिडेंट द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी ने प्रेजेंट किया था? सो 28 जनवरी को बजट सेशन स्टार्ट हुआ था और 29 जनवरी 2026 को इकोनॉमिक सर्वे 2026 प्रेजेंट किया गया था पार्लियामेंट में. ये भी प्लीज याद रखिएगा. फॉर क्वेश्चन नंबर 10 द करेक्ट ऑप्शन इज बी. 29 जनवरी 2026 को बजट हमारा जो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे वो प्रेजेंट किया गया था. द यूनियन बजट 2026-27 हैज प्रपोज्ड द सेटिंग अप ऑफ सिटी इकोनॉमिक रीजन्स टू मैप सिटीज बेस्ड ऑन स्पेसिफिक ग्रोथ ड्राइवर्स. What is the proposed allocation per CER, city economic region, over a period of 5 years? 2,000 crore rupees, 5,000 crore rupees, 10,000 crore rupees, or 12,000 crore rupees? So these city economic regions would be identified, and the government will allocate 5,000 crore rupees पर सिटी इकोनॉमिक रीजन्स. हर जो भी सिटी इकोनॉमिक रीजन्स होंगे जहां पर ऐसा लग सकता है कि ग्रोथ बहुत हाई ग्रोथ पॉसिबल है, वहां पर गवर्नमेंट 5 इयर्स में 5,000 रुपीज एलोकेट करेगी टू प्रोवाइड सफिशिएंट टूल्स टू ग्रो दीज सिटीज. Then the last question, which source contributes the highest percentage to the government's total receipts? Income tax, corporation tax, goods and services tax and other taxes, borrowings and other liabilities. Which contributes the max? So सबसे ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूशन रहता है बोरोइंग्स एंड अदर लाइबिलिटीज का, और इसके बाद जो सेकंड लार्जेस्ट कंट्रीब्यूशन रहता है वो रहता है इनकम टैक्स का. अब स्टूडेंट्स बजट के बारे में 2-3 चीजें याद रखिएगा. द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया पर से डज नॉट यूज द टर्म बजट, बट इट यूजेज अ फ्रेज एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, which has been described under article 112 of the Indian Constitution. The first ever budget was presented in 1860 by James Wilson. First ever budget of independent India was the first ever budget of India was presented by James Wilson in 1860. A first budget of independent India November 26, 1947. R.K. Shanmukham Chetty बजट प्रेजेंट कब करते हैं हम? 1 फेब को। सबसे ज्यादा बार बजट किसने प्रेजेंट किया? मोरारजी देसाई। और सबसे ज्यादा बार किसी वुमेन फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने तो Nirmala Sita Raman. Right. So these are the facts related to annual financial statement, which is eventually your budget. But budget term use नहीं किया गया हमारे constitution में. So it is Article 112. Tomorrow we'll have a quiz about all the important topics from 1st of June till 6th of June 2026. So we might start this session 5 minutes earlier tomorrow so that we can solve at least 20 to 25 questions. एंड दैट्स इट। और एक चीज याद रखिए, हर दिन का न्यूज़पेपर इज नॉट दैट रेलेवेंट, राइट। कई बार ऐसा होगा कि आपको बहुत सारे फैक्ट्स जो मिलेंगे वो बहुत बोरिंग लगेंगे, आपको लगेगा कि सर क्या करवा रहे हैं, बट अगेन वो भी हमें करना है, बिकॉज अभी हम ऐसा नहीं कर सकते ना कि मैं आपके लिए बहुत इरेलेवेंट सी स्टैटिक जीके के नोट्स लाके आपको लिखवा दूं, बिकॉज दैट इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड। सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट टुडेज एनालिसिस। थैंक यू सो मच गाइस, विल सी यू टुमारो एट द सेम टाइम। टिल देन जस्ट टेक अ